Hi, I'm Gray, and today we're going to be reviewing the Define Dishes Spinach Stuffed Salmon. For my full review, the link will be in the description down below. Each weekend, my boyfriend and I like to have some sort of fish dish. I've been trying to find new recipes to review, and I ended up coming back to the Define dish. If you've read my previous post, then you know how much I enjoy her recipes, and this one is no exception. There are a few things to consider when making this. 1. What cut of salmon are you using? 2. Draining the frozen spinach. And 3. Cook time. Let's start with the salmon. I ended up almost not making this recipe because I wasn't sure that the Whole Foods I go to would have the cut of salmon that I'm looking for. Now keep in mind why this is a specific cut of salmon you're looking for. You can't accomplish this dish with a regular portion or a very thin fillet. This is not something you're going to roll up into a pinwheel. It's just not going to work like that. Essentially, you want a cut of salmon that is going to be thick enough for you to slice a rather large pocket without piercing the other side of the salmon, so you can actually stuff it with the spinach and the cream cheese, that lovely mixture that you're going to prepare. So if you're not sure exactly what cut of salmon you're looking for, go ahead to your local fishmonger or wherever you get your fresh fish and ask them, just the way that I did. I didn't know exactly what I was looking for. I didn't know which fillet was going to be the best. So I said, hey, I'm looking for a center cut piece of salmon that is going to be stuffed. Can you help me find something like that? And thank you, Mark, for finding that perfect fillet for me. I ended up getting 2 8-ounce portions of the salmon fillets that were a perfect thickness to be stuffed with the spinach mixture. Second of all, let's talk about the spinach. The recipe calls for using frozen spinach. And sure, you can microwave it, but let it thaw naturally, absolutely, but regardless, that spinach is going to have a lot of excess liquid to it. It's very, very important that you drain as much of that liquid as humanly possible. Use a cheesecloth, use a dish rag, or in my case, I ended up using a couple layers of paper towel just to drain as much as possible. The reason for this is when you're putting everything together for that stuffing mixture, you don't want soupy spinach with clumps of spices and cream cheese. Absolutely not. You want everything to be a cohesive stuffing. You want it all to blend together nicely. Right? Right. So that's why I'm actually mentioning the draining of the spinach, because if you don't, it could honestly make or break it. And obviously that's my opinion, but I saw how much liquid came out of that spinach and I would have not wanted that in my stuffing. Another thing to mention about the stuffing is Alex of the Define Dish mentioned that she used dairy-free cream cheese. I believe it was almond-based. I have not worked with dairy-free cream cheeses or cheeses in general, so for the sake of this recipe and my sanity, I decided to go with regular cream cheese. And keep in mind, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But just know that if you have some sort of dairy intolerance or allergy, then that will absolutely work out for you, because it's been tested by the Define Dish and it has been confirmed to be creamy and tasty. And honestly, with how good this ended up being, I wouldn't mind trying it out to see if that creamy texture translates over to a dairy-free version. I have no doubt it does, but I'll certainly have to try it. And of course, since we are working with cream cheese, like any other spreadable cheese, you want to make sure that you let it sit out for a little bit before trying to incorporate everything. First, you don't want to break any utensils trying to get everything spread out. It just makes everything so much easier for you. So once you add your hot sauce, your spices, your perfectly drained thawed spinach, you'll thank me, I promise. Mix everything together. Make sure that there are no weird clumps of cream cheese or seasoning. Essentially, you want it to come together into this cohesive paste, if I may call it that. You want every bite of that salmon that you're going to take to have all those flavors, like Cajun seasoning, that lemon zest, that garlic. I mean, you want all of it in a forkful when you bite into that salmon. And the way you achieve that is to make sure everything's mixed up together, right? Yeah, exactly. The final thing I want to talk about is cook time. The recipe calls for cooking the salmon for 12 minutes at 400 Fahrenheit, and that's a very accurate time. However, number one thing you have to consider when you are following a recipe, know that every oven is different. Our oven is definitely different. It's a little bit finicky, so whenever something tells me to cook a piece of meat or fish for a very particular time, I'm going to be watching it very closely until I'm more familiar with the recipe, and if I end up making it that I know mentally or written down, hey, for this recipe, it'll take me X amount of time, which may not exactly be what the recipe states, but at least you know. In this case, the recipe calls for baking the fish for 12 minutes. I ended up keeping mine in for a total of 14 minutes. It was perfectly flaky. It was that nice light cooked pink. It was just right where it needed to be. And I'm sure as I do more of these reviews for you guys, I mention this quite a lot. Understand your oven may be different. And just bond with it that way. Figure out its little, tricks and what makes it work for you. Let me say that when I looked up this recipe, all I saw were screenshots and pictures and videos of platings that only included the salmon. Now, I'm used to a little more traditional plate, I would say, that includes, the entree of your protein that you're eating, and then one or two sides, some potatoes or asparagus and a salad. But when I looked at this, I'm like, I'm constantly seeing there are no directions for serving suggestions. There's nothing else on the plate except the stuffed salmon, some lemon slices, and some parsley, and that's it. So I figured, let's give it a go. Keeping in mind that stuffing includes cream cheese, and cream cheese is a little bit heavier, so gave it a go, tried it, followed the recipe, portion size and all, and holy smokes, guys, it's perfect. We were full without feeling stuffed, and didn't have a need to snack on anything else the rest of the night. And I think that's exactly what you want out of a perfectly portioned meal. It's absolutely wonderful. And the last thing that I really want to mention is the amount of time it took to make this. I think this has to be the quickest I ever got dinner on the table. It took me no more than 10 minutes to prep the stuffing and prep the fish to be stuffed and baked, and then 14 minutes to bake. That's a total of 24 minutes in the kitchen. Not even a full 24 minutes of me standing in the kitchen, but preparing everything and then being able to sit at the table and dig in. If you are looking for a delicious salmon dinner to share on your own or with your loved ones, family, whoever you may be feasting with on a weeknight or a weekend, whenever, this is a fabulous recipe that I think you should really try. And if you're worried about finding dairy-free cream cheese or any other substitutions you may see in other recipes, don't ever let that be something that stops you from trying something new. Look at the alternatives. See what these ingredients that you're missing are replacing, or what they can be replaced with. and I guarantee you it's gonna be that little nudge that you need to try something new. So I wholeheartedly give this recipe a 5 out of 5. The Defined Dish, you have done it again, and I cannot wait to try more of your recipes. As always, happy nomming everyone, and if you enjoyed my video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. All of my other social media pages will be listed on the bottom as well, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Stay great amazing!